is Adam, and I'm just having a look at the major commodities here. It is Sunday, the 31st of January 2021. Starting with gold. So spoke last week again about it being largely range bound. We've created that swing low on the monthly. We've kind of failed to follow through this. What I was looking to see is if the longer term is still intact, then I'd like to see gold kind of resume that. What it's indicating now is that that longer term trend is potentially at play, meaning that it might not continue. So we could actually see that gold's future for the next year could be in a different place. It's possible. It's very early days, but this is not really nice follow-through behavior. What I'll be looking for over the next couple of months, and especially because tomorrow is February, is looking for a bullish candle in February to see if it finishes higher, heads up towards 2000. If that's the case, then potentially we do still have that longer-term trend in play. Now look at the weekly, not really gone anywhere, and actually I think it's also worthwhile mentioning that if I kind of go back to September, we can see that gold has been largely range bound, and certainly beneath kind of 1900 going back to November. Okay, so it's not really been able to kind of shift and change its direction, and the daily itself is showing there's a lot of buyers at the lower part and some sellers up here. There's just not enough to kind of take it over and carry it on up, and so that really just, obviously trends can particularly kick off during the week. That's obviously when they're going to start to do it, and so I'll be carrying on the playbook over the last few weeks, looking for price to either break below 1800 or break back up above 1900. And in that case, in those situations, should it break up above it, then I start to lean towards being bullish. There'll be some potential resistance at 1950, but at least if it breaks back up over 1900, it's leaning towards the longer term trend. If it breaks below 1800, then potentially there's a whole other game that sort of comes into play at that point. Looking at silver, and I'm not sure how much there is to support this, but there's more bullishness on silver, and it is possible that this is tied through to the same Reddit users who have been pushing GameStop stocks over the last week. So we could see that there's now a new kind of enthusiasm on silver. It certainly does look way more bullish than gold, and if it does continue to climb higher, that also hints at the idea that gold will potentially follow through, although gold is usually the leading commodity, and certainly makes sense that for silver, if it's going to head up towards 30, if that's the case. If on the other hand it's going to lose steam, then that range like behavior will return, and potentially price will come back below this 26 mark. But for now, it's quite nice to see silver actually doing something instead of just waiting on gold to do it. Then having a look at copper. So copper's had a really good run. It's consolidated, actually going all the way back to December. It's consolidated for a while. It's now back in the area where here a really nice bullish candle would be great to see it continue. However, it is also overextended on the monthly and is potentially now setting up with some kind of rejection candles there, and so it might also at the same time be breaking the low and potentially seeing price head down towards 33 or 3.3. Heading down towards this level here, and so I'll keep an eye on that. It is in a downtrend on the daily. It has no clear trend, or it's sort of more bullish than bearish on the weekly, but no clear trend the last few candles, and is overextended on the monthly. So just again exercising caution. And I hate to be that kind of person who's saying, look, exercise caution, but I'm not really seeing some really clear outstanding opportunities here. Even moving on to platinum, that daily is incredibly choppy. There's no clear trend there. Looking at the weekly, it's also had a couple of corrections there. It's showing clear exhaustion and a lack of buyers above 1.12, and actually that monthly has now produced a large indecision candle. So all of this just supporting the possibility that there's a potential for the markets to head lower the coming week. Finishing off with Palladium, which did actually have a very, very bearish week. It actually slowed around the support area, so that's okay. Might manage to find support and work its way back up. If it is indeed range bound, then that'll be the case. It'll work its way back up over the coming week. But also at the same time, what it's showing is that there's just not enough enthusiasm. As bullish as it was, it seems to have lost that and just can't seem to get past that 2,500 level for now. What I'll be looking for here is just to see if it can find a support in this area around the 2.215 mark, and then manage to climb its way back up and stay within that range. If it breaks lower, again, that just supports the idea that precious metals are showing quite a bit of weakness that they haven't shown in a while. So indecision followed by weakness could just mean that there is a correction on the larger time frame. Moving on to crude oils. So crude oils not been that great the last couple of weeks, sideways. You can see they've had a really good run. They're showing some sort of potential indecision on the highs, hitting up against monthly support resistance levels, and potentially just wanting to do a weekly correction down towards some nice big round numbers, and then potentially carry on from there. So we've got a monthly uptrend. We do have a weekly uptrend. We have no clear trend on the daily. So for me, really what I'll be looking for this week is a correction down towards a key level, and then potentially either finishing as a bullish candle candle, if it responds well to that, testing that, if buyers come in and push it back up and it closes higher, that'll be good for the following weeks, or potentially having to revisit this next week and see how that goes. Same thing again here, looking at Brent crude, strong resistance and potentially setting up for a correction or a consolidation. If it connects with 53 and sets up bullishly, that could be really good for the longer term trend to the upside. Some good room to run up to 60 now. Like crude oil as well, got some good room to run up to 55 now. So anything, just a nice consolidation preparing before a move up is fine. That's possibility. But also a drop down towards the next key level and then setting up bullishly and then continuing that trend would be good. So what does that mean for me in terms of practical day-to-day trading? It just means it's a mess until it actually does either correct with this, hit this level, then set up bullishly and resume the longer term trend. But also the moves to the downside are going to be very small, very limited. That could be there, but I'm just not going to depend on those necessarily. I need to see the market start to follow through on that. And then moving on to digital commodities, looking at Bitcoin. So Bitcoin did have a bit of a correction. There's a lot of buyers in here, and so of course they've had to push higher. We're consolidating, and actually there's one very fair possibility that could happen here. Price could consolidate, connect to the moving averages, and then resume the longer term uptrend and take another run at 40,000. But again, on that monthly, it's ridiculously overextended, way more than the original bubble by comparison. And so, yeah, at some point I would still like to see a deeper correction. And again, there's not much room to the upside. Up to 40,000 would be a strong level to see if it gets through that. So there could be some short-term buying opportunities there, but at the same time, with this still being overextended, the risk of it heading lower and then breaking through the support level could still also be on the table, which means there's more, possibility for risk included on this. Ethereum of the two is much more stable. It's choppy, but by comparison, overall the price action is quite bullish. It is also very overextended and back in amongst the old highs. It's a nice solid bullish full body candle. And at some point, yeah, I'd like to see a correction back down to 1,000 or perhaps a little bit further down into these old highs, really to see that happen. But of the two, it seems to be a lot more stable. If Bitcoin does decide to have a big correction, it's likely Ethereum will be impacted by that. And they are correlated, and so there will be a bit of a follow through on that. So again, it's just, I'm not a ray of sunshine. I realize this. Most of the commodities are not showing really strong, clear trends. Oils being the ones with the best potential to resume a longer term uptrend. Metals hinting at potential weakness there, and then cryptos just being highly volatile because they're overextended on a monthly time frame, and the daily is looking relatively bullish. So shorter term approach might be to look for I might be approaching some shorter term buys on cryptos intraday with an eye to the fact that they could correct to the downside potentially if there's increased volatility, and I'll be keeping my eye on gold to see if that does start to shape, or silver, see if that starts to produce a nice stable trend, and we'll keep an eye on oil to see how that potentially consolidates and then decides what it wants to do next. That's it from me. Thank you very much.